Good morning, and I welcome you all to the 14th day of the 98th Annual Conference of the Music Academy, Madras. This morning, the prayer, in keeping with the topic of the day, is Koluvai Unnade Kodandapani of Tyagaraja in Raga Devagandhari, S. Sutra and Pavanetra of the third year of the Advanced School of Carnatic Music will be singing it.
கொலுவையுன்னாடே கோதண்டபாணி கொலுவையுன்னாடே கோதண்டபாணி கொலுவையுன்னாடே சலலித மதுலை சாரகு சலலித மதுலை சாரகு ஷீலுலை சலலித மதுலை சாரகு ஷீலுலை சலலித மதுலை சாரகு ஷீலுலை சலலித மதுலை சாரகு ஷீலுலை வலஜுச்சுகோரி வச்சீசே விம்பர் கொலுவையுன்னாடே சலலித மதுலை சாரகு ஷீலுலை வலஜுச்சுகோரி வச்சீசே விம்பர் கொலுவையுன்னாடே கோதண்டபாணி கொலுவையுன்னாடே ఉడురాజముకుడు శేషశయ్య పైని చలంగ గగని పుడమి కుమారి సుగంధము పుయ్య నమ్మిన వారలగే కడకంటిని కోరిన వరమీయ త్యాగరాజు నెనరున అడుగడుగుకు మడుపుల నందియ శ్రీరామయ్య కొలువైయున్నాడే ఉడురాజముకుడు శేషశయ్య పైని చలంగ గగని పుడమి కుమారి సుగంధము పుయ్య నమ్మిన వారలగే కడకంటిని కోరిన వరమీయ త్యాగరాజు నెనరున అడుగడుగుకు మడుపుల నందియ శ్రీరామయ్య కొలువైయున్నాడే కోదండపాణి కొలువైయున్నాడే
Our topic, the only topic for today, is Tana, its impact on Raga, grammar and aesthetics, presented by Vidushi Jayanthi Kumaresh, who to me is the human face of the Veena. Jayanthi goes back a long way in terms of lineage, stretching to Tyagaraja Swami himself, coming from the great Lalgudi tradition. I don't think I need to really introduce Jayanthi formally to this audience. All I need to say is that this instrument has received a great new lease of life thanks to an artist like her. Over to you, Jayanthi. You know the one.
Namaskarams to one and all. The subject that I'm going to be speaking about today is something that is absolutely close to my heart, Tanam. Tanam is a very joyful expression of Manodharma Sangeetam. there is another side of the raga that it chooses to reveal to us during a raga alapana. Swaraprastharambodhu, we have another complete new dimension of a raga. But during Tanam, a raga says, wait a minute, and goes inside, puts on something else, and comes out all colorful, happy, and bright. It is a mellow, rhythmic expression of ragas. There is a movement to it. When you hear Vivaldi or when you hear Beethoven, there are different movements in the composition. Tanam is something that is movement based. What does the word Tanam mean? Now, etymologically speaking, there are several references, but nothing was decisive. One I got was Ta means Tattvamasi and Na means Namaskaram. So I bow to the Brahman is one reference I got. The other reference I got was Tana. Tana meaning that which is auspicious. So again, coming back to the factor that Tanam is something that is really auspicious and happy. இந்த சினிமாலாம் பார்த்தீங்கன்னா ரொம்ப ஒரு சந்தோஷமான ஒரு சீன் வரும்போது ஆனம் தனம் அப்படின்னு வரும். ஏன் why do they choose தானம்? Because it is a combination of something which is very happy. தானியந்தே இத்தி தானா சங்கீத ரத்னாகரில் சாரங்கதேவா என்ன சொல்கிறாருன்னா that which can be elaborated. அது ரொம்ப ஜெனரிக்காக இருக்குது in a great sense because it can be elaborated. Meaningful elaboration with context, within boundaries, within a particular structure, conveying a certain information. Now, how to approach Tanam? We'll go from the familiar to the not so familiar. So, how to approach Tanam? We start with a combination of 3s, 5s, 7s, 9s. எப்பவுமே இந்த odd numbers. ஏன் odd numbers? அப்படின்னா இந்த even numbersல வீணையாக இருந்தால் we will put the talam string. பாட்டாக இருந்தால் the akaram or ikaram or ukaram will come. Tanam, tatanam, ta 1 2 3 1 2 3 takita அந்த மாதிரி combinations. Nanam tanam tanam tana. So the stress or the accent will always be on the first or third syllable, where the second one in a veena especially the talam strings will come. Takita takadimi takita takadim takadimi takita takita. This is how the patterns are woven. So இதில் இந்த 3 and 5 and the middle always the second one is something where there is a syllable that is being dragged or there is a talam coming in between. I'm an early riser. My Veena rises a little late. So sequence of 3 and 4 and takita, taka, takita. This is woven. Now, for instruments, generally, இப்போ ஃப்ளூட்டாக இருந்தால் they use the தூத்துக்காரம் அப்படின்னு அந்த தட் வாட் எவர் இட் இஸ் யூஸ்ட் அது யூஸ் பண்ணுவா. வயலினில் போ, அந்த லாங் போ ஷார்ட் போ இருக்கும், அந்த ஒரு லாங் போலியே கட் ஸ்டக்காட்டோவாக போயின்னு இருக்கும். ஸோ இட் இஸ் லிட்டில் பை லிட்டில், லிட்டில் பை லிட்டில் இட் கோஸ். And the same bow, like, I mean, a kind of pressure and dynamics in the right hand is used. Veena, Tanam sounds absolutely beautiful in Veena. Why? What is it in a Veena that makes the Tanam sound beautiful? இப்போ legato, staccato nu irukku. What is legato? Long notes. Staccatos, short notes. Veena is an instrument that does not have sustain. So when I pluck, the note stays for a bit and then dies off. And then I have to pluck again for the second note. Unlike a bowed instrument or maybe even voice where you can just sustain a note for a long time. So we have in the Veena a little bit of a fairy dust that is called the talam strings. So what we do is in between these notes, when there is a quiet, we strum the talam strings and paint a picture which is very colorful. So imagine if I didn't use it, Tanam would sound like that's what it would be. And now it makes a whole world of difference when that little fairy dust is added. And that gap, the staccato notes are colored. And we have an option of tuning these talam strings even to the notes of the ragam. And when there is a Panchama Varjya ragam, we tune it to Ma, we tune it to, if you are playing a Tanam in Hamsanandi, we tune it to Nga, Ni or Da. We can do all of this. So we use that in the Veena and give this color to this ragam. Now, talking about the different types of Tana, the most popular and most often heard, of course, is the Ganaraga Panchakam. The word Ghanam itself, you know, even Tanam was initially called Ghanam. Ghanam, when you say Ghanapatigal, or when you say, the word Ghanam means one who is pregnant with knowledge, or Ghanamana Partin solron, Ghanam. And the Ghana ragas are essentially Nata, Gaula, Arabi, Varali and Shri. And the beauty is that Tyagaraja Swami composed the Pancharatnam in these 5 ragams. And very interestingly, if you try and sing the swarams of these Pancharatnams in a Tanam pattern, it is very, very appropriate. Pa pa magari re magari re sa sa nam tanam anam tatanam anam tanam 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 ta. So every note you take Sadhin Chennai, Jagadananda Karka, any of these swarams, if you try and sing it in a Tanam pattern, it will lend itself to that, and it's a very good practice also. And these Ghana ragams, though they have scales, they have a very intrinsic, unique signature, which is not very scalar. So, Regama re sani pani sari ma, where to give the Regama or Padani pa in Shri Ragam. So, very exquisite ragams. We will start with a short clipping, if possible, of none other than This, the secret is the tempo, finding the right tempo. It shouldn't be too slow, it shouldn't be too fast. There are styles where they would start the Tanam in one tempo and keep it constant throughout. But there are also styles where you start with a little Vilambam and go on to Madhyama Kalam and then increase the speed. There is also a Dvitiya Ghanaragam which was used for Tanam. Narayana Gaula, Kedara Gaula, Riti Gaula, Natakurinji and Kedaram. These 5 were also used predominantly for Ragamalika Tanam. Now we come to a very interesting type of Tanam from Karnataka. This is called Chitte Tanam. So in the court of Mysore, when Veena Sheshanaji and Subbanaji were all there, with their experience of playing, they would compose the characteristic template Tanam phrases and notate it. And it would be taught to students. I think we have a copy of one of those notations. It was in Kannada, we got it translated to English. And these Tanams are taught to students, and as a group, when they play, it would be like a army marching. Very beautiful combinations. So each particular ragam would have about 40 to 50 chittatanams. And they believe that once the student learns these chittatanams, in due course, it's like riding a bike. You get the balance and then you're off. So they get acclimatized to the patterns and then they can play Tanam on their own. Here's what Vidwan Sri Doreswamy Iyengar spoke in an AR interview about Chitta Tanam. It's a little bit in Kannada, so it's pretty much what I just said.
ಈ ವೀಣೆ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಚಿಟ್ಟಾತಾನಗಳನ್ನ ಹಿಂದಿನ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಚಿಟ್ಟಾತಾನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು?
That was the interviewer. Yeah. Correct. Is buffering? Is the audio on? It's on. Okay. So I think he'll take his time and then reply later. So we also had a sample of him playing a little bit of Chitta Tanam. I don't know if that is going to be coming. You want to try the audio one more time? Never mind. So the other type of Tanam, of course, is favorite of everyone, the Raga Malika Tanam. Oh, there was a loose contact. And Raga Malika Tanam is where what SB sir used to do. He was known for his Raga Malika Tanam. He would have a particular set of notes that are common in 2 ragams and use that as a bridge and seamlessly go. He has played his 45 ragams here in the Music Academy itself, I think a couple of times, which is very popular. No accompaniments, nothing, sitting by himself alone, 45 ragas and tanas. So Raga Malika Tanam is a very beautiful thing. The next subject would be how to learn and practice Tanam. We hear of Tana Varnams, Pada Varnams, Vilamba Varnams. So Tana Varnams are excellent source materials for practicing. Ga gari gari sari ga ga pada da sari ga 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 da pa gari ga ga sa ra pa gari anam tanam. You can bend it a little bit and use that for practicing Tanam, both on an instrument and in voice. Let me just... it's ready? What is the issue? Oh, Wi-Fi issue. Should
ಈ
we go
ವೀಣೆ
back?
ಅಭ್ಯಾಸಕ್ಕೆ ಅಂತ ಚಿಟ್ಟಾತಾನಗಳನ್ನ ಹಿಂದಿನ ವಿದ್ವಾಂಸರು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ರು ಅಂತ ಕೇಳಿದ್ದೀನಿ. ಚಿಟ್ಟಾತಾನ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಅವುಗಳು ಎಲ್ಲಾದ್ರೂ ಪ್ರಕಟವಾಗಿವೆಯೇ, ಅದನ್ನು ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ನುಡಿಸಿ ತೋರಿಸ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ.
ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ತಾನ ಅಂದರೆ ದೊಡ್ಡ ದೊಡ್ಡ ವೈಣಿಕರು ತಮ್ಮ ಅನುಭವವನ್ನು ಹಿಡಿದು ನಿಲ್ಲಿಸಿ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ತಾನಗಳನ್ನ ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಖಚಿತವಾದ ಅದಕ್ಕೆ ಆಕೃತಿ ಕೊಟ್ಟು ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ಮಾಡಿ ಬರೆದಿರೋ ತಾನಗಳು.
ತಾನ ಚಿಟ್ಟೆಯಾಗಿದೆ.
ತಾನ ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ಆಗಿದೆ. ಕಲ್ಪನೆ ತಾನಕ್ಕೂ ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ತಾನಕ್ಕೂ ಏನ್ ವ್ಯತ್ಯಾಸ? ಚಿಟ್ಟೆ ತಾನ ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡಿದ್ರೇನೆ ಕಲ್ಪನೆ ತಾನ, ಆ ತಾನದ ಓಟ ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸಿಕ್ಕೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಪೂರ್ವಿಕರು ನೂರಾರು ತಾನಗಳು ಅಭ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಡುವ, ಒಂದೊಂದು ರಾಗದಲ್ಲಿ 50-60 ತಾನಗಳು.
This is a short example, and moving on the same subject of how to learn and practice, actually starting with the Sarali Varsai and Alankaram, Janta Varsai, Dhatu Varsai, for especially in Veena. And then we would do, when you do sa sa, the meter comes. Then you can do dhatu. Then you can do Tana Varnam, where you do the Talam in between. You can practice with Pancharatna Kritis. You can, but the most important thing when you actually start improvising is to practice within one area. You shouldn't be all over the place. Like when you take ga to pa, it is very important. Sometimes you will run out of ideas, you will feel you're repeating yourself. But when you keep doing it over a period of time, you will get fresh ideas. For instance, like that's all, just re ga ma pa in that area. When you keep, then you move on to ta da ra ra na. And another very beautiful thing is, without your knowledge, you will use the less gamaka variety of that note when you are on the move. And then when you finish the phrase, you'll say, wait, let me give the big gamaka now. For instance, you take your time and you finish and say, wait, now it's time for the big gamaka. Then maga maga ma pa maga ma da pa maga ma ni ni da pa maga ma pa ma pa da pa maga. Finish and then say ma. You won't do that when you are on the move. It's like you travel light. Okay, so you take your time with the deep gamakas. You notice that the ragam aspect of more plain notes and less gamaka notes, or the notes, the gamakas where you move the notes maybe to one frequency, one lower frequency or interval, you do that more. That is something we'll be discussing as we go on. Moving on to the actual Tanams, we are going to divide it into scalar ragams, the first one. It means scale-based ragams. So for that, we will deal with Melakarta ragam, Audvashadava ragams, and Vakra ragams that are essentially scale-based. Now, when you talk about Melakarta ragams, when you start a Tanam, you usually start in the lower octave. Let's start with maybe Kalyan. You can start. You start on the Jiva Swaram of the ragam. You won't randomly start, you won't start like that. You'll start on the main note. It's not, you can't say you won't start. It depends on if you're in a Jugalbandi and the other artist finishes in a re or some other note. It is all very situational. But normally you start with start in a lower speed, in a lower octave. And then you weave patterns of start with 3. You do that. And there is a question of, is there a thalam for Tanam? Do I have to finish it within one rhythmic cycle, or is it just a random? All of us who play or sing Tanam, we notice that unconsciously we are tapping or we are keeping a beat. It would be nicer if it finishes in, it need not finish, but it would be nicer if there is a particular pattern and a cycle that finishes, for instance. So it would be nicer. The other thing is, you will use a lot of, in Melakarta ragas especially, you will use a lot of jante. Jante means double notes, like so ga ga mama ga ga da da mama ni ni, then dhatu. Where you skip notes, dhatu. And then vadi samvadi combinations. So you would, these are the combinations like so you would use combinations like that. And then symmetry, especially if it is ragams where there is the re, and the ni, or and the ni. If there is symmetry like that, you can use interesting things like these are the things that you can explore beautifully on an instrument, or all these things you can do. Combinations where the distance in the Purvangam and the Uttarangam is the same, you can do the symmetry. And then there are things that creep in from the Tanam to the Ragam, where Tanam, Tanam, Tanam. So, Hanam. So, and octaves. There are two ways you can approach octaves. This is one way. Now, we do combinations like that. Same phrases. Like. So this also adds a lot of color. And I was discussing the other day and asking our mentor for all, Jayalakshmi ji, about this. And she mentioned a beautiful point, which is we use this. So these things, I don't know if we use it in a raga alapana, these things enhance the scope of the ragam. Who would, I very fondly remember one recollection. I was about 16 and the great maestro, my Guruji S. Balchandar sir, was playing in Mylapore Fine Arts. And that was an age where I was very thrilled with this combination of, that was a lot of fun at that time. And he was playing Tanam in Todi, and his string snapped, and he said, "You play." So I started with, "Idu Todi," he said. I was, as it is with him, you won't know which is sa string, which is pa string. I was shivering. And then, so when he said Adi Todi, then I realized, later I asked him, Mama, and the madri, and the ragatla vasiklam, but adu mattum vasikakudadu. You can play the plain ga of Todi, you can give the Gamakapurva, but there is an intrinsic signature for Todi, which is more than a scale-based ragam, right? So it has such a grandeur. So you need to bring that out and maybe in the end kind of sign off with that. So, but I was waiting, when will I get my turn? And then I started, then I said, and then he said, wait, no, that's not how you start. So, but these are things that add a lot of beauty. And then another very beautiful thing that you notice in Tanams is yatis. Now, so you reduce it, and then if you want to increase it, like that is go. What we did was go puja and shrotavaha. So, how you increase from one note. So, yatis, all yatis you can weave in Mridanga yati, all the yatis. You can go to town with that. It's a beautiful thing. And then you use brigas. How do you use exquisite brigas, which is very, very Tanam specific? most ragams. Now, jarus. I have some very interesting clippings. I'll talk about jaru in that. So you can use jaru. And for instruments, we use the pakatandi. For instance, 2 strings. You know, these phrases you will never use in a raga malapna. So these are some very beautiful instrumental things that you can use. And of course, double string harmony like. You can do all of this. So, as the great Vidwan and my mentor Zakir Bhai would say, you have your bag of tricks with you. When nothing works, just take one of them and unleash it. So, Tanam is something which will kind of salvage any situation in a concert. It has the lot of, you have your fairy dust, you have your thing, you have it. So you keep these things with you. It makes you happy, it makes everyone. The word anantam, anantam is what is used when you sing, right? So anantam is all pervasive. Anandam is happiness. So num, ta, num, you use all of this. Ta, num, ta, num. And then anandam, you are happy and make everybody else happy. So these are the things. As Vainikas, we have a lot of little things that we keep in our pocket and remove and flourish it in the concert during the Tanam. Now, how do you approach a Audiva Shadava Raga or a Vakra Raga? You go back to Shankarabharanam itself and then come to a Audiva Shadava or Audiva Sampurnam. Now this is uneven intervals, okay? So this is not, it is. Now the fun is, in your Shankarabharanam you would do, what do you do here? You can't do. You have to do a little design out there. You have different options. Now look at Vakra Ragam. Vakra ragams are like Lego toys with a particular pattern. They are not all square blocks. You can't just fix it and make any design. They come with a certain pattern. They're already having one side elongated. So to make it fit, You have to garima. Every time you come there, your Google Map takes sagari, ri, pa, ma, gari, sagada, da, da, nam, ta, nam, ta. You make allowance in your patterns of 3 and 5 and 7. And you know, when we used to learn Tanam in Natakurunji, for a very long time, it was very easy to play. That pa would always, I could hear my guru say pa, 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 because it was easier to. What is this pa doing in between now? That will slow your speed. So the ragam is such that you can't use a template and put it for all ragams and say here is a Tanam template, select all, apply. No. You have to, each ragam is a very different person. And when you meet that person, he says, hey, wait, you're coming to pa. So, you can also show the different. All this in speed you can show. Now, is speed the only thing in a Tanam? No. The tempo is the thing. It's not like I have to play very fast, only then it's a Tanam. No. But if the tempo goes, then you might as well sing a raga. So, being in that pace, bringing the character of the ragam is what the entire fun is all about. Now, we go to Rakti ragams, phrase-based ragams. Like I would say, very opinionated ragams. So they have their own nature. You can't bend them to any. They are so, what do you say? They have their own character and uniqueness. Now, we have a beautiful clip for this that shows you how to be in tempo, how to explore the possibilities of a raga, and how to bring out certain unique traits of the raga which you don't see in a raga alapana. Hoping that the clip plays. Is it? What a clipping, isn't it? So the fairy dust for vocalist was that what is given in the throat to keep the tempo going. The different techniques. In Hindustani, they had the movement of the jaw, but you know, you've heard that kind of a Tan singing. I don't think here we move the jaw so much. So different techniques are used to keep that tempo going. What can you say? A Rakti ragam, to be in tempo, to change its, alter its gamaka, to be in that flow and stop and give that signature. Well, here is Kedara Gaula. So that is what is important. So the key for a Tanam is to practice individually for each specific raga and not to apply the same formula for every raga. Some ragas sound very nice in the lower octave. Some sounds very, like Shanmukha Priya sounds very nice for Veena. In upper, you know. So each ragam, some ragams have a different octave where they sound really beautiful. Now we go on to the different styles of presenting this Tanam. It's a manodharma component. So anybody can choose any style to present it. There is a Gayaki style. Many Vainikas present it in a purely Gayaki style, exactly as you would say the syllables. It is, you can actually hear the syllables. Here's a clipping by my guru. So you can literally hear Tanam, Tanam, right? So now here's a Tantrakari style. Tantrakari is a very instrumental style. What I learned during my 6 years of PhD, I took longer than normal. So what I learned was that there is no right style or wrong style. So every style has something to offer, something so beautiful to offer. And if you can incorporate a little bit of all that, you would really enjoy presenting something. Here's such a beautiful style by the great Emaniji, Ragam Ganamurti. Talam strings tuned to different things. There's one more clip. This is such a completely different take. It's a tantrikar, it's a very instrumental style of presentation. Now, there is an individual style, and SB sirs, I chose a clipping where we could cover two things, not just his individual style, but also a phrase-based ragam on Veena. We hadn't heard that. A phrase-based ragam on Veena and Tanam and an individual style. All the best. Oh. He's pulling that in pa. Then he goes on to the next ragam. He would probably go, my God. When I used to go to him, he would pull this pa from here, right? So I would try. And he said, ஆண்டவனே ஆண்டவனே வேண்டாம், நீங்கள் சாப்பிட்ற தயிர் சாதத்துக்கு அவ்வளோ இழுக்க முடியாது. So, you know, the interaction with these, what do you call, luminaries, these experiences and expressions, it's like a Tanam itself in our life. Coming back to techniques, the gaits of different animals was used to denote the different types of Tanams. There is Ashwatanam. Honestly, I don't remember these things when we actually perform in a concert, but these have been there and are a part and are taught. So I thought I must include all of this. Ashwa is where there is a gallop, you know. There is a what shall we? There's a gallop. So that's Ashwatanam. Gajatanam is very slow in the pace of an elephant. Then you have Markata, Mayura, Kukkuta, and Manduka. Manduka is like a frog. So you go like a frog. So you don't. I mean, the music does. And that is... Manavatanam is where it's a straight flow. It's not, it's the Shuddha Tanam, like straight flow. There's another thing called Kuta Tanam, which is zigzag, and Dhatu Prayogams are used. Then there is Tanams based on figurative patterns. Chakra Tanam, where you go in the cylindrical movement. Weave around in one place. Chakratanam, Vakratanam, zigzag, Mishratanam, where it is a mixture of all of this. Malika Tanam is Raga Malika. Gambhira Tanam is something that is very authoritative and it makes a statement. Vidya Tanam is something that is very peaceful. And these are the different things that we actually incorporate. One thing that I really felt was that we use a lot of dynamics in Tanam. So if the whole thing was in one, if I went like... So you use a different type of pluck, loud, little soft, and then there is also some other techniques which I'll talk about when I wind up. So the journey of the Tanam, if you've noticed, the entire Lec Dem, I planned it like a Tanam. So I don't know if it came through, but starting was like from the known, plain notes, what is there in the books, what is Tanam called, Tani, Deti Tanam. And then you go to the middle section in Pa where you weave, you talk about where things actually happen, you heard all these maestros. And then the end when you go to the, the real fast Tanam. And that's what's going to come now. The Dhanisa, 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 Nisa, Garisa, Risa is going to come now, which is the journey of Tanam. Over the years, so there is what is called as Jod and Jala in Hindustani music. The jod is something that goes along with rhythm. It has a certain rhythm to it. Jala is the very colorful thing which is very instrument specific, and it is slightly faster than jod. We have incorporated over time all these things. How the social, geographical, cultural experiences of a musician shapes their experience is a wonderful journey. Tanam, what it was mentioned by Sarangadeva or earlier, and what it is now, and what we see, and what it will be tomorrow, it's something that is evolving in presentation. It is like how in Swaram singing the Swaraksharam came, and then how the Puruttams came, and different types of core ways. It is evolving, right? Similarly, Tanam is something that is evolving. And you can, now they have Mridangam players who play when you, in Navaratri Mandapam in Kerala, you have the Mridangam accompanying you. And sometimes there is in some of the concerts that I was fortunate to play with Zakipai, he would always play along for the Tanam, almost like an alap. He would use the baya more, and that would give a very beautiful effect. So is it necessary to have Mridangamakam? Not necessary. It has an intrinsic rhythm on its own. But still, there are things that you would like to add in your journey of Tanam. For instance, usage of this third finger is one thing. See, the usage of this third finger. You might as well use those fingers. So that requires a certain amount of practice. You know, when you play, especially a jugalbandi with a sitar or something, they have their pluck drum this way. So the plucking is both ways. So you have to match that speed. And in Veena, we pluck only from up to down, one direction. And so we use things. That much we can do with Tair Sadam. So you add a lot of color and use the instrument. I mean, if it's Veena, especially for students here, use the instrument, use the entire scope of instrument. Do not be bound by, am I getting the syllable there? So that's when you can become the voice of that particular instrument and express. So with that, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Jayanthi. We'll now go to members of the experts committee. Sangeeta Kala Acharya, Dr. R.S. Jayalakshmi.
ரொம்ப நல்லா பண்ணம்மா. இவ்வளோ ஒரு என்ன சொல்கிறது ரிசர்ச் பண்ணி அதில் எவ்வளோ வெரைட்டிஸ் இருக்குன்னெலாம் பார்த்து எந்தெந்த ஸ்டைலில் எப்படி வாசிக்கிறான்னு பார்த்து யூ ஆல்சோ லேர்ன் தட் ஸ்பீட். அது
ட்ரைங் டு
வெரி நைஸ். பட் எனக்கு ஒரு கொஷின், பாலச்சந்தர் வாசிக்கிறச்சே இந்த புல்லிங்கெல்லாம் ஒன்லி ஆராபன ஃப்ரேஸில் தான் வருமே ஒழிய தானத்தோடு வருமா? வராது.
தேவகாந்தாரி ஒரு தானம் எஸ்டர்டே நேற்று கேட்டிருந்தேன். அதில் வந்து 2 ஃப்ரேஸ் தானமாக வாசிச்சுட்டு நடுவில் நிறைய ராகம் ஃப்ரேசஸ் வாசிச்சிருக்கார். ஸோ புல்லிங்கெல்லாம் ஒரு அளவுக்கு தான் தானமில் வரும். நீங்கள் சொல்கிற மாதிரி ராகா அலாப்பனையில் தான் நிறையா.
இல்லை நான் கேட்குறது என்ன, அந்த புல்லிங் போது இந்த மீட்டு போட முடியாது இல்லையா?
முடியாது.
ஒரே அது ராகா ஃப்ரேஸாகவே தான்
100%.
ஸோ அது வந்து அந்த ஒரு ஸ்பீடு, அது ஒரு கண்டினியூட்டியில் ஒரு பிரேக் வந்து தான் ஆகும்.
கண்டிப்பாக அப்சல்யூட்லி.
வெரி நைஸ்மா, ஆல் த பெஸ்ட்.
டாக்டர் ராம கௌசல்யா.
ரொம்ப அழகான ஒரு முழு கச்சேரி கேட்ட ஒரு நிறைவு. எனக்கு தோணுது ராகமாலிகை தானமாகவே ஒரு கச்சேரி பண்ணலாம் போல் இருக்கீங்கன்னு தோணுது. எனக்கு தானமாகவே ஒரு ராகமாக எடுத்துன்னு பண்ணாலே ஒரு முழு கச்சேரி ரொம்ப அழகாக இருக்கும் போல் தோணுது.
எஸ்பி சார் மாதிரி 45 ராகம்ஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கேம்மா.
ஓ தேங்க்யூ.
மாதிரி இல்லை, அதுலேருந்து இன்ஸ்பயர் ஆகி ஏதோ.
தேங்க்யூ. ஒரு சின்ன இன்ஃபர்மேஷன், காரைக்குடி ஆற்றுல கூட சிட்டத்தானம் சொல்லி கொடுப்பா.
ஓ,
நான் வந்து சங்கரி மாமி ஆற்றுல கற்றுனேன் தானம், ஆரம்ப தானம் அங்கே கற்றுனேன். அப்போ எனக்கு தானம் தெரியாது. ஃபேமிலி டாக்டர்ஸ் எல்லாருமே சிட்டத்தானம் சொல்லிக் கொடுப்பா, எல்லாம் சிட்டத்தானம் சொல்லிக் கொடுப்பா. அங்கே
ஸோ இங்கேயும் இருந்திருக்கு சிட்டத்தானம்.
சிட்டத்தானம் இருந்திருக்கு.
இட்ஸ் ஓல்டர் தென் த கர்நாடகா.
ஆமாம், நான் பண்ணியிருக்கேன், அவாத்தில் பண்ணியிருக்கா ஒன்று. இன்னொன்று இந்த கஜதானம் இதெல்லாம் இருக்கு இல்லையா, இதுக்கு லட்சணம் ஏதான் இருக்கா, யாரான்னு பண்ணியிருக்காளா?
நானும் ரொம்ப தேடி பார்த்தேன்.
இல்லை இல்லையா? நம்மள
தானம்ங்கிற வேர்டுக்கே தேர் ஆர் சோ மெனி இன்டர்பிரிட்டேஷன்ஸ்
இருக்கு.
மாமி நான் பார்த்ததுலையும் இந்த கஜதானம் மயூரத்தானம்லாம் ஒரு டிஸ்கிரிப்டிவ் பேசேஜஸாக வந்திருக்கு. இதில் எங்கேயுமே எனக்கு தெரிஞ்சு ஆதாரம்னு கேட்டேன்னா ஒன்றும் கிடையாது. இது வந்து ஒரு டிஸ்கிரிப்டிவாக வந்து அதுக்கப்புறம் அந்த யூசேஜாக மாறி இருக்கு, ஆர் யூசேஜை டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுறதுக்காக பண்ணியிருக்கா. ஒரு ஃபார்மை டிஸ்கிரைப் பண்ணுறதுக்கு அட்ஜெக்டிவாக வந்த மாதிரி தான் இருக்குது, ரிவர்ஸாக. ஸோ தானம் வாசிக்கும் போது இந்த ஃபார்ம் எப்படி இருக்குன்னா ஒரு கஜதானம் மாதிரி இருக்குது, அந்த மாதிரி தான் வந்த மாதிரி நான் நினைக்கிறேன். பிகாஸ் நான் தேடினதில் இந்த மயூரதானம் கஜதானத்துக்கு ஒரு ஆதாரம் கேட்டேன்னா ஒன்றும் இருக்கிற மாதிரி தெரியல.
நடுப்பு வர அந்த சாஃப்டாக வந்தா, அந்த தாண்டி வந்தா அப்படின்னா வச்சு நம்மளாவே அதுக்கு ஒரு பேர் கொடுத்துட்டோமாங்கிறது தான்.
டெஃபினட்டாக அதுதான் நான் சொல்கிறேன், டிஸ்கிரிப்டிவாக தான் வந்திருக்கணும், அது
வந்திருக்க முடியும் இல்லையா? ரொம்ப அழகாக இருந்ததுமா, தானத்தை பற்றி எவ்வளோ விஷயங்கள். தேங்க்யூ.
Thank you. Members of the executive committee on this side, anyone? I'll just come. Okay. Vidwan Arun Prakash. Oh, Bala, sorry. Bala. In fact, he had already, how do you put it? The parliament la minnadiye place panniduvale question. So he told me if you will allow me. So
நமஸ்காரம். இந்த வீணை மீட்டு அமையிறதுங்கிறது வந்து தெய்வீகமான ஒரு விஷயம். ஒரு குழந்தை ஃபஸ்ட்டு வீணை எடுத்து வாசிக்கும் போது என்ன மீட்டு வருதோ அதுதான் லைஃப் லாங். அந்த விதத்தில் ஜெயந்தி குமரேஷ் அவர்களுக்கு அந்த மீட்டு ரொம்ப தெய்வீகமான மீட்டு. ஏன்னா வீணை மீட்டு சாஃப்டாக இருந்தால் தான் கேட்க முடியும், நம்மளால் ஹார்ஷாக இருந்தால் கேட்க முடியாது. ரொம்ப அருமையாக இருந்தது.
எல்லா மீட்டுமே நன்னா இருக்கணும்.
ஆமாம். அடுத்தது நம்ம ஆர்ஜே மாமியோட பரமகுரு சேரன் மகாதேவி சுப்பிரமணிய சாஸ்திரிகள், அவருடைய வழி வந்த ராகவன் சார் வந்து மாமியோட குரு. அப்போ அந்த விரலடி நிறைய போட்டு ஸ்பிரிட்டமேட்டிக்காக விரலடி தானம் ரொம்ப நல்லா வாசிப்பா. ராகவன் சார் ரொம்ப ஃபேமஸ் ஆகுது. அடுத்தது இந்த தானத்துக்குன்னு தனக்கு ஒரு தனி இடத்தை பிடிச்சி ஒரு பெரிய ஃபேன் ஃபாலோவிங் இருந்து ஸ்ரீ சிட்டி பாபு அவர்கள்.
கண்டிப்பாக அவரோட குரு,
ஸ்வீட்டஸ்ட் மீட் இந்த வேர்ல்டு அவரது. அவர் தனக்குன்னே ஒரு தனக்கு ஒரு ஒரு பாணியை வகுத்துட்டு எல்லாரும் அதுக்கு போய் மயங்கி விழுந்ததை நான் பார்த்துருக்கேன்.
கண்டிப்பாக
அதுதான். தேங்க்யூ.
தேங்க்யூ பாலா, தேங்க்யூ. வித்வான் அருண் பிரகாஷ்.
இந்த இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டை எலக்ட்ரிஃபை பண்ணுற கான்செப்ட் எதனால் வந்தது, எப்போ வந்ததுனால அந்த இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டோட கமக்கங்கள், விரலடி, பிரிக்கா இதெல்லாம் கரெக்டாக இருக்குதுன்னு நீங்கள் ஃபீல் பண்ணுறீங்களா? எலக்ட்ரிஃபை பண்ணுறதுக்கு முன்னாடியும் அப்புறமும் ரெண்டும் ஒரே மாதிரி இருக்கா இல்லை மாறி இருக்கா? தேங்க்யூ.
ஸோ முதல்ல வந்து ரொம்ப ஒரு சின்ன ரூமில் ஒரு 4 பேர் உட்காந்துட்டு கேட்குற மாதிரி வீணை அப்படி இருந்தது. இவ்வளோ பெரியவாள்லாம் உட்காந்துட்டுருக்கா, ஏதோ நான் சொல்கிறேன் கரெக்டாக இருந்தால் சொல்லுங்க. ஒரு சேம்பர் இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட்டாக இருந்தது முன்ன. நான் ஃபஸ்ட்டு இந்த ஆம்ப்ளிஃபை பண்ணி பார்க்குறது. அப்புறம் இனிஷியலாக நாங்கள் கான்சர்ட் வாசிக்கும்போது இந்த மைக் தான் வைப்பா. ஒரு 3 to 5 ஸ்லாட்டில் வாசித்தோன்னா ஒரு 4:15 வரைக்கும் அந்த மைக் செட் பண்ணுறதுக்கே எங்களுக்கு போயிடும். அப்புறமா வந்து 4:15க்கு ஒரு வெரைட்டியாக இருக்கட்டும்னு கூன்னு ஒரு சத்தம் வரும். சரி இது ஒரு மாதிரி பரவாயில்ல, அதுக்கு நாங்கள் ஸ்ருதியை சேர்த்துட்டு அதுக்கு ஏதாவது 2 கீர்த்தனையை வாசிச்சுட்டு வந்துடலாம் அப்படின்னு ட்ரை பண்ணினோம். அதுக்கப்புறமா இதுக்குன்னு ஸ்பெஷலாக யாராவது நான் இங்கேருந்து யூரோப்லேருந்து வரேன், இதுக்கு வீணைக்காக நாங்கள் இது பண்ணியிருக்கோம் அப்படின்னு. எனக்கே ஐ கம் ஃப்ரம் அ ஃபேமிலி ஆஃப் வயலினிஸ்ட்ஸ். துணுண்டா வச்சுட்டு இவ்வளோ சவுண்டு எல்லோரும் க்ரியேட் பண்ணுவா ஃபேமிலியில். எவ்ரிபடி பிளேஸ் த வயலின். அண்ட் எனக்கு வந்து ஆஸ் அ கிட் இவ்வளோ பெரிய இன்ஸ்ட்ருமெண்ட் எனக்கு கொடுத்துட்டு துணுண்டா ஒரு சவுண்டு வருதே இதில். ஐ யூஸ் டு வண்டர். ஸோ அண்ட் கண்டினியூட்டியும் இருக்காது. அவள் அந்த ராகம் நாங்கள் வென் வி ப்ளே டுகெதர் தான்னு போய் என்னென்னா லாங்காக போ போடலாம், என்னோடது டங் அப்படின்னா முடிஞ்சு போயிடும். ஸோ இதை எப்படி அண்ட் அவளோட ஸ்பீட் ஐ வாஸ் கான்ஸ்டன்ட்லி ஃப்ரம் அ சைல்ட் பிளேயிங் வித் வயலினிஸ்ட்ஸ் அண்ட் எப்படி ஹவு டு மேட்ச் தட் ஸ்பீட், ஹவு டு மேட்ச் தட் சவுண்ட், மேட்ச் தட்ஸ் த ஸ்டோரி ஆஃப் மை லைஃப் ஆக்சுவலி. அதை எப்படி ஆம்ப்ளிஃபை பண்ணால் இது கேட்கும், அந்த சவுண்டில் இது எப்படி கேட்கும், இதோட இதில் வந்து அந்த கெயிட் தான் பியூட்டி, அந்த சைலன்ஸ் பிட்வீன் த நோட்ஸ் தான் பியூட்டி. அந்த ஒரு நோட் ப்ளக் பண்ணிவிட்டு அடுத்த நோட் வரத்துக்குள்ளே அந்த கேப்பை வந்து அந்த டைஜஸ்ட் பண்ணிக்கிறதுக்கு அந்த ஸ்வீட்னஸ் அதுதான். ஸோ இந்த பியூட்டி ஹேஸ் டு பி communicated அப்படின்னா finding the right kind of amplification was the key to this. So each hall had a different sound setup and each மிருதங்கம் artist had a different texture to playing. ஸோ எல்லாரோடையும் வாசிக்கும்போது ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது. நான் ஆல்ரெடி முடிச்சுட்டேன் நினைச்சுடுறா பிகாஸ் வித்தவுட் மைக் இஃப் ஐம் பிளேயிங் வெறும் வீடியோ இருக்குது, ஆடியோவே இல்லை. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி நிறைய டைம்ஸ் ஆகும்போது தான் எஸ்பி சார் he introduced pickup. ஏமினி சார் அவளும் ஸ்டைல்லையும் மைசூர் ஸ்டைலில் they believed in not putting a pickup for a long time. Now they do. For a long time they would not. But their instrument constructionும் இருக்குது. Now மைசூர் and ஆந்திரா பாணியில் pulling the strings நிறையா கிடையாது. So top board of the வீணை would be thin. And the amplification sound was much more. If the top male palaga வந்து if it is thin, the sound would be more. If it is not thin for our style, the Tanjavur style, thick ஏன் போடுறோன்னா when we literally pull strings and பண்ணும்போது இந்த bridge உள்ளே போயிடும் thin போர்டாக இருந்தால். அப்புறமா bridge கொஞ்சம் இறங்கினோடனே நோட்ஸ் எல்லாம் வேறு மாதிரி கேட்க ஆரம்பிச்சிடும். ஸோ மேல் பலகா became thick for us. And we had to lower the pitch. 5 கட்டையிலலாம் வாசிப்பாவாங்க. 5 கட்டையிலனா வித்தவுட் அ மைக் யூ கேன் ஹியர். இங்கே நம்ம 2 கட்டை 2 கட்டை 3 கட்டை வாசிக்கும்போது இழுத்து வேறு வாசிக்கும்போது சஸ்டெயின் கிடைக்காது. அண்ட் இஃப் யூ ஹாவ் டு கமக்கம் கொடுத்து பண்ணும்போது 5 கட்டையில் கமக்கம் கொடுத்தா கையெல்லாம் யூனோ ஸ்ட்ரிங் இஸ் வெரி டாட். ஸோ கொஞ்சம் லோவர் ஸ்ருதியில் நிறையா இழுத்து வாசிக்கணும்னா நேச்சுரலி வி நீடட் அ பிளான் வேர் வி ஆர் ஹர்ட். And then the need came where it transcended from a chamber instrument into a concert instrument, from a concert instrument to an arena instrument, and then you are sometimes sitting and playing for 30,000 people, and then நம்ம வந்து எம்பரஸ் க்ளோத்ஸ் மாதிரி ரொம்ப என்னமோ இருக்குது அதில் அப்படின்னே எல்லாரும் போக முடியாது. You have to at some point in time tell them what there is. Yeah.
Supplementary question. So, I mean, in your style, SB sir vasikkumbodhu or I mean amma vasikkumbodhu, the inverse has also happened, right? The technology has enabled movements because of technology, you're able to communicate things, imagine things.
True.
And communicate. So it's interestingly that works both ways.
100%.
The instrument also your style benefits from mathing, but the other is the technology allows you to imagine in a manner you couldn't imagine before also.
Very
right?
true. Very true.
The other, but I have another question for you. I can understand. So I want to know about using this technology in different styles.
Correct.
இப்போ உங்க பாணியில makes complete sense. And the nishadam of SB sir is haunting me till this moment.
Right.
I can't get out of that suratini. But suppose the style is not this style. இஃப் இட் இஸ் a ஸ்டைல் ஆஃப் நிறைய விரலடி ஸ்டைல் வச்சுக்கோங்களேன், இவ்வளோ புல்லிங் கிடையாது, then is the contact still required is my other question to you.
Maybe not, but again depends on where it is being presented. If it is a 1,000-seater hall,
You think a mic is still not enough for that
it
style?
depends. If
உங்க
it is
style
an
சொல்லுங்க.
acoustically treated good hall, maybe not.
Then it is possible that according to style, the requirement of amplification can change, right?
100%.
Okay, that was my supplement.
100%.
That was my supplement. Thank
Yes. Namble accompaniment, even in our style, if it depends on who's playing with you, where you are playing, what is the context. Idliye you have piezo mic, you have pickup, you have electromagnetic, and then we've been trying so many things. Inge endu vandu ottikirudhu inge onnu, inge then we use 2 pickups. Vandu verum thalam string ku or thani pickup, idu inge vandu pickup ellam plan pannin povom. Anga or light potona adoda vibe kaamchuna or sound varum. So this is a transporting, I mean this is the greatest deiva vadyam, kochikama irukano adu, but I'm just saying, but அதை டிரான்ஸ்போர்ட் பண்ணி அதை மைக் பண்ணி எல்லாரும் அந்த ஒரு கமக்கத்தை கேட்கறதுக்குள்ள இட் இஸ் அ பியூட்டிஃபுல் ஜேர்னி.
Members of the audience? No hands. Yes, please. There. Is that Brinda? Yeah.
A very mainstream question, probably not for Carnatic discussion. நான் கேட்ட ஃபஸ்ட்டு கமக்கம் வந்து இளையராஜா மியூசிக்கில் தான் கேட்டிருக்கேன். ஸோ த யூஸ் ஆஃப் கமக்கம் இஸ் ப்ராபப்ளி ஒன்லி இன் சவுத் இண்டியன் ஃபிலிம் மியூசிக். ஸோ வாட் ஆர் யுவர் தாட்ஸ் அபவுட் இட்? டு யூ ஹேவ் எனிதிங் டு ஆட்? தானம் எஸ்பெஷலி. யா. The use of Tanam, I have heard only in South Indian film music. Of course, taken from Carnatic tradition.
Oh, you mean usage of Tanam in films?
Yes.
Oh, they use a lot of jala in North Indian. You've heard those sitar bits, haven't you? So again, adhe mari happy scene, everything ends well. Abdingumbodhu or beautiful jala varum. They have used it. Definitely. Happy music, we use it all.
Yes, please.
Namaskaram, ma'am.
Namaskaram.
Do you have to adjust differently to mridangam and tabla if both accompaniments are there?
While playing Tanam?
Yes.
Yes. Sometimes when we shift speed and அந்த மனோலயம்னு ஒன்று இருக்குது, யூ டோன்ட் நோ, பிகாஸ் திஸ் இஸ் நாட் அர்த்மெட்டிக் ஆர் ஜாமெட்ரிக் ப்ரோக்ரெஷன். இப்போ டபுள் எக்ஸாக்ட்லி நம்ம ஸ்பீட் இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ண மாட்டோம். அந்த ஹிந்துஸ்தானி மாதிரி இந்த ஃபஸ்ட்டு ஸ்பீட்லேருந்து அடுத்தது ஸ்லைட்லி ஃபாஸ்டர், அதுலேருந்து ஸ்லைட்லி ஃபாஸ்டர். ஸோ டு பி இன் சிங்க் அண்ட் யூ நீட் a lot of understanding with your co-artists to be able to move together in the same speed. But it is a beautiful experience, having said that, to play, because and the sensitivity oda when they play, that is really beautiful. Idoda nuances varum, adoda beauty um theriyum. The way it is, I mean, we have so many lovely mridangam artists here. They would say that தானத்துக்கு வாசிக்கிறது is a completely different thing than from playing ஸ்வரகல்பனாக்கு வாசிக்கிறதோட it's a I don't have to adjust.
Next question, I see a hand there. Yeah.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
It's a very basic question. Could you please explain the difference between speed and tempo of a tanam? Like what is the difference between speed and tempo? Because I think you said those two words in a different...
That is exactly the difference between thalam and layam. So, thalam is இது வந்து ஆதி தாளம், இது திஸ்ர ஜாதி திருப்பட தாளம், இது மட்டிய தாளம், இது கண்டகதி. Layam is an intrinsic beat. Tempo is, I'll tell you what speed is. I will tell you what speed is. I will tell you what speed is. This is speed. You can perceive exactly when the speed increases. Speed is something that hits you immediately. Speed is something that hits you instantly, right? Immediately you know, I'm changing the speed. Tempo is something that is constant, that goes inside, that gives, that need not be fast or slow. When I say speed, number subconscious, immediately you imagine fast. I don't know why. Speed. அப்படின்னு சொன்னோன்னா anybody sings. அவள் கச்சேரி நல்ல ஸ்பீடாக இருந்தது அப்படின்னா do you ever think ஸ்பீடுனா ரொம்ப ஸ்லோவாக இருந்திருக்கும்? No. ஸ்பீடுன்னு சொன்ன உடனே you think it is fast, right? Tempo is an essential kala pramanam, inbuilt kala pramanam is tempo. I hope.
Thank you. Yes, there is a question here. Gentleman there.
Namaskaram. Thank you for a wonderful Lec Dem. I had a question. This is more mainstream, I guess, because most of the Tanams that we listen to today are part of the RTP that are in a concert. You have explored the interplay between Ragam and Tanam very well in your lecture, but what is the influence of the Tanam style and the choice you choose, knowing what Pallavi you're actually going to present?
Wow.
What is that connection?
So,
is there one? Sorry.
So, we were, our gurus would say that நீ ராகம் ஆலாப்பனை பாடும்போது people இந்த பர்டிகுலர் அம்மராவம்மாக்கு கல்யாணி பாடும்போது வேறு மாதிரி இருக்கணும், கமலாம்பாக்கு கல்யாணி பாடும்போது வேறு மாதிரி இருக்கணும். You have to, kind of model it like that. In Tanam, I would say, if you are going to play Tanam, in Veena we do play Tanam for Kritis also. We even start a concert with Tanam sometimes. Supposing I'm playing Kalyani and I'm going to play Kamalamba Bajare. The Tanam will have to kind of represent the mood I'm going to carry forward. It will be nice if there's nobody said it, nobody etched it in stone and said you have to do it. But it's understood that if you are going to present Kamalamba Bajare, that Tanam will have a certain quality, a certain meditativeness, a certain nidanam, a certain mood, tempo or speed, which will reflect what is coming next. If you are going to play a Pallavi after that, you can explore. You can feel free to explore all the nadays, go explore all the speeds you can do. You don't have a responsibility like you have to the composition. The responsibility is to the Raga Devta. There. Correct, Amma?
A question from here. Over here. You explained about the double string playing sound. Can you explain the mechanics of how it sounds? If a second string, if it's tuned to pa, do you play the first and the third string, or can you explain a little bit of how double string sound we are able to hear as a Rasika?
Yeah. இது ஆன் பண்ணுமா? So you're essentially hearing you're actually hearing 3 notes. You can hear it? It's also, when you play in 2 octaves, also double string is possible. The same notes in 2 strings. But these are Vadi Samvadi notes or complementary notes or harmonic notes. You could hear the 3 notes. Okay, thank you.
Lots of questions today. Yes, please. Yes, madam, you. Mike.
Good morning. So my guru once told me, my guru once told me that like 50 years ago, when concerts were being played to increase the pace of the concert or just for a bit of auspiciousness, they played Tanam before normal compositions as well. Before, say, a Panchakam, they played a Tanam and then continued. So how and why did that practice die out? As how did Tanam get restricted just to Ragam Tanam Pallavi now?
It didn't, Kanna. We're all playing it for Kritis.
But in a concert...
Concert only.
So why...
We play it. Like Ambavani Nanu, small Kriti, even 1 hour concert, even radio concerts, which is for 1 hour, we play Tanam.
Okay.
We do play. But what you're saying is right. A lot of Tanam is played for Ragam Tanam Pallavi only. But for Kritis also, at least Vainikas we do. Vocal?
இந்த பக்கம் பார்க்காம இருப்பாங்கன்னு நான் ரொம்ப நாள் பார்த்துட்டு இருந்தேன். Well, okay, I'll make 2 comments. In general, it is true that Tanam is contained today with Ragam Tanam Pallavi. But if I may stick my neck out and say, I think I've been singing it all over the place for a long, long time. For more than a decade. Only Tanam as a piece. Tanam before a Madhyamakala Kirtanam that suits the gait. So Tanam actually you can present it in many different places in many different ways. I think it's up to us to discover that. So the problem is not Tanam, the problem is us.
Having said that, I'd just like to maybe conclude with one thing. There was a concert, I think for music college, I played with SB sir. I sat with SB sir actually. So he played it and he said, it was a morning concert and he was in one of those serious moods and he said, Enna vaashikalam modala. And then I was of that, when you're 16, Varnam, opram or Pilliyar Kirtanam, or Pancharatnam, or Submain, in your mind you have that. So now Navaraga Malika Varnam Mama. Now I thought Kedaram, morning Ragam, he'll say Sabash and all. No, but I said Navaraga Malika. He was not happy. He thought I would say something like Usaini, Mukhari, Abdillah. So then he said, you know what he did? He played, it was a 3-hour concert, 9 Ragams first, 1 hour achu. And then all the 9 Tanam. And then he played the Varnam. And in Charanam line, it's Padasaroja then. In Padasaroja, he played Swaram from Kedaram and finished the concert with Sri Ragam. So when I came back, Perima asked me, Ennala Nikachel, Navaraga Malika Varnam. Apro? Navaraga Malika. That was the only thing. The whole concert had only Navaraga Malika Varnam. 9 Ragam Vashi, adukku Tanam Vashi, then the Varnam, Swaram and all, and concert started with Kedaram, finished with Sri Ragam.
I'm very proud today that I'm in that Shishya Parampara.
100%.
Namaskaram, Jayanthi madam. I had a question right here. Yes, please. It was more about the talam strings, or like the ones that you keep the beat with. I was wondering if it do you vary the strings, or like is it standardized per school which strings or like which notes you use for each ragam, or like do you always use sa? I just wanted to know more about it.
It's not standardized. It's usually sa pa sa. For Panchama Varjyam, we tune to ma. Some ragams, even if there are, for instance, Natakurunji, sometimes, or Vasanta Bhairavi, it's nice to keep it in ma. Sometimes, not always. Depends on which note is on your mind that particular day. So, you can keep it in ma or pa. And maybe some ragams like Hamsanandi, you can keep it to ni, for instance. யூ கேன் கீப் இட் லைக் தட். ஸோ பட் அது ரொம்ப நன்னா சேரலைன்னா தானும் போது நன்னா இருக்காது. You have to be, it has to be in the right temperature. Veena should be in a good mood, and you tune, and if it is in the right tuning, it will sound divine.
Thank you, madam.
Thank you so much for the questions. Before I hand over the mic to Sangeeta Kalanidhi designate Vidwan Shri T.M. Krishna, this is a special morning. Each year when Anand Mahadevan returns from the United States of America, he goes and looks at the storehouse of his father's collection and then finds out something that is related to the Music Academy and then gifts it to us. So today he has come with the address that the Music Academy presented in 1943 to Sir Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. At that time he was Sir Sarvapalli Radhakrishnan. Later he became Dr. S. Radhakrishnan. So I request Anand to please come on stage, and I request the Sangeeta Kalanidhi designate to please receive it on behalf of the Music Academy. It will become a part of our collection in our Music Academy library and our archives. Thank you very much for having brought it. Thank you. Yeah, please. We have one question on from stage. Yeah, go ahead. We have the time.
Namaskaram, sorry for the last minute question. So as a vocal student, something that I've noticed is Veena Tanam sound is incomparable. So பாட்டு வந்து வீணையோட சவுண்ட்லேருந்து தான் பாட்டு வந்தது அப்படின்னு சொல்லி நான் கேட்டிருக்கேன். ஐ டோன்ட் நோ ஹவு ராங் ஆர் கரெக்ட் தட் இஸ். பட் கன்சிடரிங் தட் the sound of a Tanam is so intrinsic to the Veena, as a student, do I try to emulate that? Does that make me better at Tanam? Or is that something that is open to my preference? How do I get better at singing it? Do I learn the most from listening to a Veena Tanam? Is the question.
So, if I may say so, வீணையிலேருந்து பாட்டு வந்ததா பாட்டிலேருந்து வீணை வந்ததாங்கிறது இஸ் நாட் சச் அ இட்ஸ் நாட் ஸோ இம்பார்ட்டண்ட் டு அஸ். எதுலேருந்து எது வந்தாலும் ஈச் ஹேஸ் இட்ஸ் ஓன் யூனிக் வாய்ஸ். த வீணா ஹேஸ் இட்ஸ் யூனிக் வாய்ஸ் and the voice has something that is so intrinsic to it. Trying to play the Veena exactly like how you sing may take away some of the charm that Veena as an instrument itself can offer. Trying to sing like a Veena may not do full justice to what you can do as a vocalist. I think listening to all of this, putting all that, practicing like a Veena, practicing like you sing, then find your story to tell.
Bala also had a observation to make. I'll play one. Interesting. Sorry.
Okay.
இல்லை இப்போ ஜனவரி 10ஆம் தேதி வைகுண்ட ஏகாதசி வருது. நீங்கள்லாம் ஸ்ரீரங்கம் போனீங்கன்னாக்கா ராப்பத்துன்னு ஒரு உற்சவம் நடக்கும். அங்கே வந்து சுற்றி வர பாறாங்கல், நோ அக்கௌஸ்டிக் ட்ரீட்மெண்ட், ஒரு 5 பேர் வீணையை வர்டிக்கலாக வச்சுட்டு வாசிப்பா. அது வந்து பின் ட்ராப் சைலன்ஸ். யாராவது பேசினா அந்த சிப்பந்திகள்லாம் ஷூன்னு சொல்லிடுவா, எல்லாருமே தானாக சைலண்ட் ஆகிடுவா. கிருஷ்ணா சார் இல்லையா? ஆமாம், சாபாஷ். ஸோ அந்த அந்த சைலன்ஸில் அந்த வீணை ரொம்ப பிரமாதமாக கேட்கும். ஸோ வீணைக்கு ஆம்பிளிஃபிகேஷன்றது காலத்தின் கோலம், அது அவ்வளோதான்.
கரெக்ட்.
ஆடியன்ஸ் டிசிப்ளின் இருந்தால் அகாடமி ஹாலில் கூட மைக்கில்
கண்டிப்பாக யூ ஆர் ரைட்.
Thank you, Bala. I now hand over the mic to Sangeeta Kalanidhi designate Vidwan Shri T.M. Krishna.
But first I have to congratulate Dr. Jayanthi Kumaresh for such a spectacular morning. Thank you so much for such a I think what was important about this morning is the openness of your conversation, being able to take in so many different styles, so many ways of thinking about Tana, and presenting each of them as having their own qualities and explaining that in depth, I thought was something wonderful that we rarely see on a demonstration or a concert stage. I thank you for that, especially. I'm going to bore you a little bit, so be prepared. So when I, about 10 years ago, tried to look at the history of various Manodharma aspects, the most difficult to decipher was Tana. Oralavukku alapa, we were able to figure something out. Nerval doesn't seem to exist for a long time and suddenly makes an appearance. In fact, that word itself comes in probably only in the 20th century or late 19th century. And the vaarthaye kadiyadu varaikum. Tana was very, very confusing because the use, again, the problem, like we've said many times in the last sessions, the words are repeated. Tana abdinradhu, you find it from Gandharva Sangeeta, but there it means something totally different. Again, used again in Sangeeta Rataka, it means something else. So, if I was going to just trace some threads, and I've just taken notes from something I wrote a long time ago, so I may be missing some, there'll be gaps here. I think the Ghananaya Desya categorizations of ragas by Shaji is an important part in this conversation, where ragas are basically classified based on texture. A Ghana raga, a dense movement, rigid movement. Naya, soft, smooth. Desya, from a different region. This is how Shaji classifies the ragas. So there is this whole thing, adukko namma paarathukko sambandham irukanu. Interesting thing is that initial days, the Tana Varnas were all in Ghana ragas. But then that changes. People are making Varnas in many, non-Ghana ragas. Now, this is one thread that is coming. Then there is this Ghana Marga. Most mysterious thing is Ghana Marga. Now, the person who actually gives us information about this is Uve Swaminathaiyar in Yen Saritram and Sangeeta Mummanigal about Ghanam Krishnayar. But Ghanam Krishnayar is not the first Ghanam singer, because I think Ghanam Sinnaya was 17th century and he was singing, so the prefix Ghanam is there. So Ghanam na yenna, abdinu question varudhu. Now he talks about this famous incident of Bubilu Keshaviya coming to Tanjavur court and presenting Ghanam. And the king is like, "Very yaraka the mari paada theriyuma." Nobody knows to sing Ghanam. Then he says that Ghanam Krishnayar, then, not Ghanam Krishnayar, he says, if he will teach me, I will learn from him. So the story goes that he learns from him, Ghanamarga in Tanjavur. But when Bubilu Keshvaya sings Ghanamarga, it's the description is, it sounds like a lion's roar. Is the description. Okay? So Krishnayar goes, Bubilu teaches him, and then he says, I need an isolated place to go and practice. So of course the king will provide what he wants. So he goes to the isolated place, and he wants butter from cow's milk. This is all written by Uve Swaminathaiyar, by the way. Because he says, Ghanamargam Padina, lot of heat is generated. Okay? And it involves a lot of hunkara, a roarish sound, hunkara. So after a lot of time, it's physically very exhausting. He sings it. People around that area also seem to say that it seemed like the lion was roaring. Then he comes back and he presents it in the court. What does he present? He presents Ghanaraga Punnaga Varadi. Okay. And what he does is he sings Tana in the same raga, takes the first line of a small composition in Punnaga Varali, adds a lot of Sangatis na Soluva. It must have been Neravelish, is my hunch on it, and Kalpana Swaras. Now, interestingly, Uve Swaminathaiyar says that the Ghana Marga appears here and there. Now, he doesn't say Tanathla Mattunda Ghana Margam irundhudnu solradilla. And the Ghanam style of singing, so and the Pallavi Parachyu irundhuda, Ragam, Nerval Parachyo, Swaram Parachyo irundhuda. So, Ghana also manifests a certain way of singing, not necessarily a certain method of improvisation. To add complications in this, I decided to look at Dhrupad. And I was saying, okay, is there any, because you find in Dhrupad this texture, vocal. So in Dhrupad, the word Bani is used very differently from how we use Bani. So Dhrupad, Bani is stylization, a stylization of singing. In one of the Banis, called the Kandhar Bani, the rasa is supposed to be Veera rasa. Okay? And though all kind of gamaks can be used, which are soft, heavy, this style has a pradhana of a very heavy gamak bani. And they also say the sound is like a lion's roar. This metaphor of a lion's roar again comes back. And the Kapala Bhati yoga mari irukano, and the mari ullendu nevellendu varum. And they also say in the Madhyalaya alap, with increasing intensity and faster alap is seen in this. And Dhruvapadas are also composed to create the same Kandar Bani, this aggressive thing. So was there some influence of a Dhrupadish tradition in the Ghanamarga? Is a question mark, because we know Tanjavur was a hotbed for many styles to come. So this is the other thing. இதுக்கு நடுவில் மத்தியம காலான்னு ஒன்று வந்துருது 19th centuryல. மத்தியம கால பாடுறதுல எக்ஸ்பர்ட்ஸ் லைக் சாத்தனூர் பஞ்சநாதையர் இஸ் அ மத்தியம கால எக்ஸ்பர்ட். Now, and so மத்தியம கால is மத்தியம கால the same as Ghanamarga, Raga, Tana Varnam. All these puzzles are kind of, it's like, it was literally like a mystery and still remains a mystery. Now, Veena artists, you already talked about this whole Kutatana thing. That is, those are composed pieces. They also come to being. இப்போ மத்தியம காலம்ன்றது வீணையிலேருந்து மட்டும் வந்ததா? வீணைலாம் வாசிச்சாங்களா? கனமார்காருந்து வோக்கல். சம்வேர் ஹேவ் த போத் ஸ்போக்கன் டு ஈச் அதர்னு ஒரு வருது. சங்கீத சர்வார்த்தசார சங்கரம் மூலம் வந்து வீண ராமானுஜா வந்து தானமுலுன்னு எழுதுறார், தன்ன கரமுன்னு எழுதுறார். யூ ஸ்போக் அபவுட் தேனானோ. திஸ் தேனா அண்ட் தன்னா are basically மங்களகரமான சொற்கள் not only in Sanskrita but also in Tamil. It's also in Tamil. So ரெண்டு languages they considered auspicious. So they've been there. சம்பிரதாய பிரதர்ஷினிக்கு வந்தால் அவர் வந்து 41 ராகாங்க ராகத்தில் தானம் கொடுக்குறார், கனராகத்தில் கொடுக்குறார். அவர் ராகாங்க ராகம் சிலது ஸ்கேல் தான், அவர் கிரியேட் பண்ண ஸ்கேல் தான், அதுலேயும் தானம் இருக்குது. ஸோ அட் சம் பாயிண்ட் ஆஃப் டைம் திஸ் மத்தியம காலா ஃப்ரம் த வீணா, த வோக்கல் ட்ரெடிஷன் இஸ் ஆல் கெட்டிங் மிக்ஸ்ட் இன் டு சம்திங் தட் இஸ் ஹேப்பனிங் இன் த லேட் 19th century. So we really don't know, I think, how these things came together. But the fact is, I think these threads were definitely connected. One thing is, Madhyama Kala traditionally was only played in Ghanaragas. They were not played in any other raga. So the Madhyama Kala link with Ghanaragas as Shaji, there seems to be some thread. But Ghanamarga seems the biggest mystery. Okay? And maybe somewhere, the way vocalists sing Tana, you have that extra throat effort that we put. இப்போ ஸ்ரீனிவாசர் பாடுறது போட்டேன். இப்போ நாங்களாம் அந்த we do an நம் தத் இன்ஃபேக்ட் நம் தத் நம் தான் பாடுவார். So there's a extra throat push. Is that remnants of something else? We don't know. But I'm just letting the mystery go because I am still, it's an unsolved mystery because I've seen all the threads. I don't know how they spoke to each other, how they came, but I think somewhere in this is a theoretical classification, is a style of singing that came from somewhere else. Obviously, Bobili Keshava was not from here. There is also the instrumental, the Veena having his Madhyama Kala coming up, and somewhere they've all spoken to each other and given us what we do today. So I just thought I should go through this. For me, one thing I promised myself when I started coming to the mornings is I will not talk in nostalgia or about my guru or my this thing. But I'm going to do that right now. I know, but I'm going to do it right now. Is எனக்கு தானம் சொல்லிக் கொடுத்தவர் செங்கல்பட்டு ரங்கநாதன் சார். அவர் இல்லைன்னா எனக்கு தானம் பாட தெரிஞ்சிருக்காது. நல்லா கைத்தட்டலாம், இவ்வளோ கஷ்டப்படுவான் நான் அதுக்கு. பிகாஸ் இதே மியூசிக் அகாடமியில் ஒரு சம்மர் வந்து ராகம் தானம் பல்லிவி இது ஒர்க் ஷாப் நடந்தது 3 மாதத்துக்கு. திஸ் இஸ் இன் mid-90s. And I enrolled for it. And 3 months பெண்ட கைடுவர் சாதாரணம் கிடையாது. ஐ மீன் ஹவு டு சிங் தானம், எப்படி பாடணும் அப்படின்னு அவர் தான் எனக்கு சொல்லிக் கொடுத்தார். அதில் ஒன்று சொல்லுவார் எப்போதுமே, ஸ்வரம் பாடுறச்ச நான் தப்பு தவறி கூட பல்லவி ஒர்க் ஷாப் வச்சு பாமா பா ததா பானா நிறுத்துன்னுவர். கல்பன்னு சொல்றதுல பாமா பா ததா பாலாம் வரக்கூடாது, அது தானத்துக்கு வச்சுக்கோ. பாமா பா ததா பா பாமா பா ததா பா பாமா பா ததா பா, இது என்னது, ஹில் ஸ்டாப் மீ இம்மீடியட்லி. ஸோ ஹீ இஸ் டு மேக் திஸ் very aesthetic differentiation in his head, saying that is for Tanam singing, don't, because today I think sometimes we don't know whether Kalpanaswaram is being rented or Tanam is being rented. We don't know which is happening actually, right? டக்குன்னு புரியாது நம்மளுக்கு. சரி, தானமே ராகம் மாதிரி நிறைய பேர் பாடுறது வேற விஷயம், அதுக்குள்ளே போவாண்டா இப்போ. but keeping that aside, so that is one thing. And you said that point, very important point, I think, both for Tanam, even Kalpanaswara, is this overlay of odd number. அது நம்ம மியூசிக்கில் ரொம்ப ஒரு அழகான விஷயம். ஃபண்டமெண்ட்லி ஒரு சதுரஸ்ர பேஸ் தான் நம்ம மியூசிக். இது வந்து தானமாக இருக்கட்டும், கீர்த்தனமாக இருக்கட்டும். இன்ஃபேக்ட் நம்ம எல்லா தாளமும் ஈக்குவி டிஸ்டன்ஸ் இன் கிரியா. ஒன்லி த சாப்பு தாளம்ஸ் ஆர் எக்ஸப்ஷன்ஸ் வேர் வி ஆர் நாட் ஈக்குவி டிஸ்டன்ஸ் இன் கிரியா. நான் சதுஸ்ர பேஸில் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக ஆடு பிளேஸ் பண்ணால் தான் உங்களுக்கு கான்ட்ராஸ்ட் வரும். நீங்கள் வந்து 4 மேலே 4 பிளேஸ் பண்ணால் there is no contrast, which is why even our 8 is 3 plus 5. Okay. It is not 4 plus 4. And I think that's such a beautiful idea and a very profound idea of how we are communicating something when it's overlaid in a contrasting way. It's very difficult to do a 4 by 4. Even if you do a 4, இப்போ ஸ்வரம் பாடுறச்சியை ஒன்று தள்ளி பண்ணுவோம். ஜென்ரலாக நேச்சுரலாக ஒன்று தள்ளி 3 தள்ளி வந்துடும். இம்மீடியட்லி இட் பிகம்ஸ் அன் ஆட் இன்டர்பிரிட்டேஷன், ரைட்? ஸோ இந்த தானத்தில் இந்த 3-5 or interplay is just stunning. It's just stunning. And the other magical thing for me in Tanam is there is laya, but the laya is not constrained by a tala. Now, that is as philosophically profound as you can get. Right? So you're not boxed in a construct of rule, which is what the meter does, but you have a gait of a rhythm. You have to feel it. தானம் பாடும்போதோ வாசிக்கும் போதோ அதை நம்மளுக்கு தோணணும். ஸோ நம்ம மூச்சு எடுக்கிறதுக்குள்ள தாளத்தில் எடுக்க மாட்டோம், பட் அந்த லயத்தில் எடுப்போம். நீங்கள் வாசிக்கும் அந்த கேப் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்கலாக அந்த லயத்தில் வந்துடும். திஸ் ஹோல் ஐடியா ஆஃப் வேர் ரிதம் லைஸ் இன் அ தானம், ஐ திங்க் இஸ் த மிஸ்ட்ரி ஆஃப் தானம். That is what actually you feel when you hear. It's not just the sangatis that you're experiencing. You're experiencing this incredibly fluid notion of time that we are passing on to you. So to me, which is why, I mean, with all due respects to my great friends here, I have my personal reservation. This is a personal opinion on Mridangam for Tanam. This is my personal opinion because I feel at some point fixing it doesn't allow that in-between to happen. This is what I feel. That in-between goes. Of course, I think we can work on creating the in-between together. That needs some work. It is possible, possibly. So it's something to think about for us. And something you also brought about, see, gamakana, இப்போ நம்ம ஜென்ரலாக ராகத்தில் வந்து கமக்கங்கள்லாம் எப்படி இருக்கணும், இந்த ராகத்தில் எப்படி இருக்கணும் அப்படின்னு சொல்கிறோம். பட் தானம்னு வரும்போது அந்த கமக்கம் வேல்யூவேஷன் எல்லாம் ஆட்டோமேட்டிக்காக மாறும். நம்ம தானத்துக்குன்னு கமக்கம் பற்றி பேச மாட்டோம். ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள், இப்போ தோடி பாடுறோம். தோடி பாடும்போது தானம் பாடுறச்ச சில சுரங்கள் வந்து அப்படியே ஸ்தானத்தில் தான் பாடுவோம். ஆனால் தோடி சொல்லிக் கொடுக்கும்போது அதை பாடக்கூடாதுன்னு தான் சொல்லிக் கொடுப்பேன். ஆனால் அதே ஸ்டூடெண்ட் தானம் பாடும்போது அது பாடணும்.
சரி சக சமா.
சரி சக சமா பற்றி தெரியாது, அதுக்கப்புறம் பாடலாம். But I'm saying this, how even Gamaka as an idea is reimagined in Tana.
Correct.
Has to be reimagined. Because you can't extend the value, because the gate is the pradhanam there. That gate is, அந்த கேட்டுக்குள்ள கமக்கத்தை எப்படி திருப்பியும் ஒரு இமேஜின் பண்ண முடியுன்றது ஒரு பியூட்டிஃபுல். அண்ட் நீங்கள் சொன்ன மாதிரி ராகம் எப்படி இருக்கோ அதுக்குன்னு திருப்பியும் மாறும் அது, ரைட்? ஸோ தட் இஸ் ஆல்சோ another aspect I wanted to bring. The other interesting thing is நாதஸ்வரத்தில் தானமே வாசிக்க மாட்டான். இன்னைக்கு they want to play, that's a different thing of course. So but நாதஸ்வரத்தில் தானம் கிடையாது. வாசிச்சிருக்காளா? செமனார் கோயில் வாசிச்சிருக்காளா? ஓ ஓகே ஓகே, நான் கேட்டதில்லை. பட் மிச்சவா எல்லாரையும் நீங்கள் கேட்டேன்னா மோஸ்ட் ஸ்கூல்ஸில் வந்து நாதஸ்வரத்தில் தானம் வாசிக்க மாட்டா. ராகம் வாசிச்சிருவா, பல்லவி வாசிச்சிருவா. ஸோ தட்ஸ் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங் திங் ஆன் வை. ஃபார் எக்ஸாம்பிள் ஃப்ளூட்டில் இல்லை, அது வேறு எப்படி கேட்கோன்றது இப்போ சர்ச்சை இல்லை. ஸோ முன்னாடி வாசிச்சது இல்லை ஃப்ளூட்டில் கூட.
தி தேவதாசி ட்ரெடிஷனில் வந்து ராகம் பல்லவி தான், தானம் கிடையாது விமெனுக்கு.
நான் அதை பற்றி ஒன்றும் சொல்ல விரும்பலை, நான் கண்டினியூ பண்ணிடுறேன். நீங்கள் வேணால் பதில் சொல்லுங்க. பட் just to kind of sum up, I think that I unfortunately think that in Carnatic music today, Neraval and Tanam are two aspects that are most ignored to a large extent, at least in vocal music, if I can be more specific. Of course, the ever popular is Male Kalaswaram, because that's going to get the most amount of applause, very simply put. But I think, yeah, I mean, but I'm saying that I think we have to, in a way, revive that whole magic of Tanam. I mean, we have to, because it has something that no other Manodharma aspect actually has. Sometimes Veenala Tanam kekkumbodhu na sonna paadanuma taanone oru doubt vandrum enakku. It's seriously, should we sing it or doubt varum enakku? Because I think there is also something that has come again and again in these series is identity of instruments and their own language, their own expression. And I think there is something to do with the instrument and the expression that you can't separate. And have vocalists reimagine that enough to make it a vocal transition, with all due respects to all the greats who have sung Grenadal Tanam, is something I think still needs, we can all still think about it. It's no harm done thinking about something. So sometimes that comes, but kadasiya onnu solano, and the SB Saroda Nishadam still stands with me. I still remember, and I think it's the same recording where he'll go from pani in power and the knee extend pannite varuvar. Oh my goodness. That I'll end with only saying that Nishadam kind of stands apart. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. Tomorrow, the 15th and penultimate day of the conference, the first lecture is by the recipient of the Musicologist Award, Vidushi, Sister Margaret Bastin, who will speak on Sarva Samarasa Kirtanegalum, Sanmarga Kirtanegalum. The second lecture, Vidushi Geeta Raja, who is one of the 2 Sangeetakala Acharya awardees of this year, Ragas as expressed in Padams and Javalis. I look forward to seeing you all here tomorrow. Have a great day and bye for now.